The trilogy is finally complete. I know it took a little bit for me to get to Fuga Melodies of Steel 3, but I always intended to finish out playing this game of cute animal kiddos and strategic tank combat, a combination that has led me to say sentences I have never previously uttered. Fuga Melodies of Steel 3 delivers a satisfying conclusion that feels consistent with the previous two games and keeps things open for future Little Tail Bronx entries. Fuga Melodies of Steel 3 is a turn-based tactical RPG developed and published by CyberConnect 2. It is the concluding game of the trilogy that began with the first game back in 2021 and is part of the larger Little Tail Bronx series. This is the first game not involving the original Fuga director Yoan Garito, with Hiroto Nisato taking over as the sole director after serving as the co-director for Fuga 2. While there was turnover in the director and producer areas, Fuga 3 did retain the same composer and writer from Fuga 1 and 2, so it is unsurprising that Fuga 3 feels very familiar. The game was released on May 29, 2025 for PC, Switch, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and the Xbox Series. The game was decently well received from critics with an 81% on OpenCritic. Player reviews have also trended positive with a 90% positive rating on Steam. I do always take the player reviews with a grain of salt since typically those who had a negative experience of the first two games wouldn't even bother playing nor reviewing the final one, but it is clear to me that if you enjoyed the first two games, you are likely to have a good time with the third one, which was certainly my experience. At the beginning of Fuga 3, the eldest of the children, Malt, is lured back to the cave where the kids found the tank the Tyrannus previously. Despite dropping said tank into the clouds below the floating island, the Tyrannus has boomeranged back and returned to the land of Gasco. Malt doesn't have long to process this unexpected return though before he is captured and smuggled to the country of Burman. The Burmans are planning another invasion of Gasco, breaking the very recent tenuous peace agreement the countries had agreed upon. It is up to the other kids then to board the Tyrannus one last time in order to rescue Malt and stop the invasion. This adventure will take our crew to a new land in Burman and beyond. In an interview prior to the release of Fuga 3, a representative from CyberConnect 2 stated that Fuga 3 would be over twice as long as the previous games, with over double the illustrations. The illustrations part definitely seems to be true to me, however, Fuga 3 is absolutely not over twice the length of Fuga 1 or 2. It took me 21 hours to get the true ending for Fuga 3. Certainly if I wanted to do a completionist run it would have taken longer, but in part due to the way that the game structures returning to previous chapters and moments with the Akasha panel, I would say Fuga 3 is even easier to complete than previous games. I'm actually more than happy that the representative was wrong because I think Fuga 3 is respectful of the player's time while offering more than enough content to feel content with as the finale to this journey. The narrative does not go anywhere surprising, but considering the narrative wrapped up with resolution for both the main story as well as the overarching trilogy story, I left satisfied. There are too many pieces of media that do not resolve their overarching story with care to take it for granted at this point. The one area that I would have loved to see more is greater focus on the kids themselves and their personal arcs. It is a very Malt and May focused adventure, and the other kids are along for the ride. They have their fun moments, especially in the Link events, but those scenes are short and thus can feel unfulfilling for those hoping for more character details. The cast is lovable and gets their moments to shine, mainly in the various side interactions, but you have to put in the effort to see those. The gameplay also offers more of the same. You travel in the Tyrannus through the level on a track. There are occasional branches of the path that will warn you about whether they are the safe, normal, or dangerous paths. The more dangerous the path, the better the rewards for taking them on. Along each path there are various stops. Some have enemies you need to take down with between 1 to 3 waves of enemies. Others have materials or healing spots. There are also intermission spots where you can improve the Tyrannus and do various activities with the crew, expeditions to send kids into mini dungeons, and power spots that can do everything from teleporting you to creating new recovery points. Those are all ones that previously appeared in the games, and Fuga 3 adds one new point around the new link ability mechanic called transmission points. I'll go more into detail on that as well as the intermissions, expeditions, and power spots, but the overall structure is almost identical to the first two games. When you engage with the enemies, you have 3 guns to work with, and they change type depending on which crew member is the primary gunner. You put a primary and a secondary gunner in each spot, and the secondary assists the primary in combat. The higher their link level, the better their abilities and the better their help. There are 3 gun types with corresponding colors. Blue is for machine guns, which are speedy and highly accurate but low damage. Yellow is for the grenade launcher, which is balanced. And red is for the cannon, which hits hard but has the lowest accuracy. All the turns for your crew members and the enemies are displayed on the turn bar at the top of the screen. Each enemy you face will have weakness points that are either blue, yellow, or red, and when you hit and destroy all of them, you delay the enemy's turn. Some enemies have an additional obstacle in the form of armor, which is shown with the big number just before the health bar. You have to balance your healing and SP ability pool with taking out the enemies and putting yourself in good position to take on any subsequent wave/later fights. I think this is an enjoyable combat system that leads to lots of interesting decisions looking at short and long-term strategy. There are some changes and additions to the combat mechanics. The first is how the powerful burst attack is triggered. In the past, it was a percentage between specific gunner pairs, and the player would choose when to fire. Now it is a shared bar for all of the Tyrannus, and it goes off when the burst gauge is full. The gauge also does not carry over between fights, so you can't save it up for the big boss battles. While it is more restrictive, I still had a good time figuring out how to work with it to maximize its effectiveness. The burst gauge is also linked to the combo bonus. The bar goes up when you hit weaknesses and your combo bonus increases. With each subsequent weakness hit, it goes up again until you can deal an extra 200% damage with each hit. But if you don't hit a weakness in that turn, the boost resets. I enjoyed how this incentivized hitting weaknesses and added another layer to the strategy of taking down your foes. Just below the combo bar, you have another one that is connected to the new assist mechanic. Previous allies and new friends are available to assist in combat via their unique abilities, and they are a powerful advantage in your arsenal. You recruit the assist characters through the occasional judgment choices. Once you have enough points in either resolution or empathy, you will automatically recruit that assist character. You can level up their skills through the transmission events I previously mentioned in the gameplay structure section. These involve the allies interacting with one or more of the kids on board and provides insight into their background and what they are doing to help the cast in their efforts to end the war. I appreciated this mechanic both for increasing the characterization of our allies and for providing insight into the other frontiers of the conflict. In Fuga 2, Malt had leader skills that occasionally triggered during combat to give various advantages. This time, instead of it being completely dependent on Malt, every kid in the cast has a particular leader skill that can activate during combat. For example, Kyle's leader skill allows everyone to act before the enemies do, while Hack's boosts everyone's excitement, making it more likely they'll enter the powerful hero mode. This is another improvement to the story and gameplay integration of the game because it shows how each of the kids is growing into their own leadership and role within the Tyrannus crew. The final combat mechanic I will talk about that has been adjusted for Fuga 3 is the Soul Cannon, the devastating destroy everything attack that requires the life force of one of the kids to power. Like with Fuga 2, you do not have control over when this fires, and Fuga 3 has made that even more punishing with a quicker trigger for a kid to go to the cannon and a shorter countdown to fire. This is the first game that I wasn't able to prevent a kid from sacrificing themselves, and while I was later able to go back and rectify my mistake, it was a memorable moment. I will say though that it was mainly because I forgot how punishing the countdown was and not because of the difficulty of said fight. This is quite a bit to cover for the gameplay additions and changes, and while it is exhilarating to use all these tools to mow down your enemies, one of the consequences of all these additions is a severe reduction in the challenge of the game. The Soul Cannon adjustment is the only balancing factor giving the enemies a greater advantage than they had in the first two games. The game gives the enemies some new mechanics to try and balance things out, such as having to hit particular weaknesses before the rest are available to hit, or hiding weaknesses, but these are used too infrequently to outweigh the massive advantages you now possess. To put this into perspective, the Chapter 10 boss, there are 12 chapters in the game, did not do a single point of damage to me in a regular, non-New Game Plus playthrough. Therefore, while the system is fun to engage with, those expecting a challenge may need to look elsewhere or impose some personal restrictions in order to boost up the difficulty. Now, for out-of-combat gameplay, there have been some minor adjustments to each of these as well. The expeditions now have bombs that can be used to get items, clear obstacles, and defeat enemies. A little addition, but one that gives more depth and variety to these encounters. The intermissions have all the standard activities such as upgrading the Tyrannus, cooking, caring for plants and animals, scrap fishing, talking and viewing link scenes, and more. The one wrinkle added in is the Omega Terminal, another way to upgrade the Tyrannus. You send virtual avatars of the kids and their allies to mine to get VP, and then those points can be used either to upgrade the Tyrannus or purchase items. The upgrades to the Tyrannus can consist of boosts to abilities and stats, or it can give more options at the various power spots on the map. These power spots are where you can do things like teleport back along the track, make recovery points, bomb enemies, and more. So by investing in the Tyrannus through VPs, you can increase your options when progressing through the level. The Fuga series is so good at meshing all of the various little activities throughout the game into the progression and gameplay loop. Nothing that you do in Fuga 3 feels pointless. Visually, Fuga 3 looks very similar to its predecessors. The visuals of the series have remained mostly unchanged throughout the trilogy, but the style has always been the stronger part of the visual presentation than the graphics. The increase in illustrations does come through with more dynamic scenes presented, and some really nice illustrations throughout the whole adventure. Musically, the game used a lot of the same tracks that we've heard throughout the series. The few new tracks are delightful, but there is not a significant number of them, so they can get lost in all the reused tracks sometimes. The voice acting is limited to just Japanese voice acting, and sometimes even limited to a single word per sentence, so it's not all that notable. If you were expecting anything significantly different presentation-wise for this final game in the Fuga series, then you will be disappointed. But for those who are accustomed to the style of the games, there is plenty to enjoy and see. The UI and UX retains its straightforward communication of information and ease of use. And so I think while there's not been an upgrade in presentation, that the team at CyberConnect 2 really prioritized the player experience and retaining the feel of the previous games. Fuga Melodies of Steel 3 is a worthy conclusion that respects the player's interest and time with a satisfying adventure. The narrative is solid if unsurprising, the gameplay easier than previous games but enjoyable, and it was fun to spend one last game with this cast and see them go off on a high note. To those who have enjoyed the first two games of the series, I recommend playing the third. Thank you all for watching. What have y'all thought about Fuga 3? What is the best gaming trilogy you've ever played? I have to go with Xenoblade Chronicles so far. If you have not already, please leave this video a like, comment below your thoughts, and subscribe to keep up with the channel. Have a great day, and happy gaming.